I started saying, hey, you're in a wave, and it's going to pass. And our 8-year-old's very like cognitive. And I remember one time he was just so angry. And I said, it's going to pass. And he said, no, it's not going to pass. I'm going to feel this way forever.
Hello and welcome to the UK Surf Show, a podcast about surfing in the UK. We are your hosts. I'm Pete.
And I'm Leighton. On today's episode, we talked to a really cool guy, Jaimal Yogis, a surfer, a Buddhist and an author of the books Saltwater Buddha, The Fear Project and All Our Waves Are Water.
As Leighton said, yeah, really amazing guy. We've chatted about kids, family, surfing, what it means to be a surfer. We chatted about him surfing Mavericks.
Incredible, yeah. Terrifying, incredible. But
yeah, just a good all-round chat. Someone, not from the UK, obviously, but someone we really thought we should get on the show, as the books I've read that he's written really spoke to me, especially the Saltwater Buddha. It's the closest thing you can do to explaining, I think, the way you feel in the ocean, that sort of state of meditation, waiting between the waves, that feeling of going from peaceful, tranquil, bobbing up and down to just pure adrenaline of like riding down the face of a wave really quickly.
Yeah, he articulated himself really well, didn't he? And I think it resonate with all surfers, but it does resonate with people who aren't surfers as well. But
especially in these times of where mindfulness is something that's becoming a lot more
needed.
Needed is the word. So without further ado, we'll just go straight into it. You pick us up as we get into the conversation with Jaimal.
Enjoy.
How would you say you bring the peace that you feel from the ocean into your day-to-day life?
I mean, it's always a challenge with now with having a 4, 6, and 8-year-old. I feel like peace is not the word to describe our lives.
It's not on the cards.
It's just not there, is it?
So I just don't. That's the answer. I don't do it. I just come in from the ocean and yell at them to pick up their damn Legos and get on with it. I think meditation was something that I got into around the same time as surfing, and it was because I ran away from home to Maui when I was 16, and I was just getting into the typical high school trouble, but it felt really dramatic, and I felt like I had to learn to surf and had to get away from it all. And but when I got to Maui, being in there with no money and wasn't paradise. And so I'd had some introduction to meditation from my parents, but I didn't ever want to do it because they were doing it, And
you're rebelling.
But then, when I was really struggling with loneliness and being out of money and whatnot in Maui, that's when I started trying it and just picked up a book and said, I'm going to give this Counting My Breath a shot. And so those two kind of grew up together, and I immediately made the connection that I was really bad at both. But I also made this connection that, my thought waves and emotional waves were moving a bit like the sea. And so, surfing became sort of like the movement side of meditation to me. And so, but I don't think I could. I think it's really easy just to have surfing be like this separate thing where it's like all of your land life kind of sucks, and then you're just trying to get back out.
Get back into the ocean,
and I've definitely done that a lot in my life. Just been like, I'm just trying to make time to surf, and then just get through everything else. And but I think the practicing mindfulness piece, like just stopping and doing that a little bit every day, really helps me like transition Not that I go surf and then I meditate every time, but having both of those tools, they sort of inform each other because, if I was just doing, if I was just doing stillness meditation, I think it's easy to do the same thing where it's like, well, now's my time to be peaceful and then I'm going to get up. Definitely. And you don't necessarily have like and even doing like some sort of Tai Chi or yoga or something, it doesn't, for me, work as well as surfing because surfing's so dynamic and you're being challenged by the ocean and you're being challenged by crowds and all that stuff. But you're also having these moments of stillness between waves. So it works really well as this kind of like, this is a model of what you could do in the world to, so I see them as almost like these tiers. And then being in the living room with my kids tearing their hair out, that's like, that's like the real big wave surfing where you have to say,
wipe out.
How can I manage this, without freaking out? And,
I loved how you described that just then. That was perfect. That the surfing is the movement side of meditation. That's like kind of perfect. That little line there. That's kind of what we feel like, isn't it? Like we've mentioned it before. There's no other sport that you do where you're kind of playing with nature, and that must have some kind of mental impact on you, like in a positive way.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're really lucky as surfers because we get this cocktail of like neurochemicals, because they've done studies like just looking at the water or just touching the water or swimming. It gives you this sense of peace and it lights up areas of the brain that don't usually get contacted, when we're in cities. And so you're getting that nature piece, but then you're also getting this like adrenaline and dopamine hit from the fun of it. And
definitely,
which really helps with getting into like flow states and those states where you really just feel like you're completely in the moment and really working to your full potential. And then and then you're also getting exercise. So you're getting that as well. So it's this really sweet cocktail. It's no wonder it's so addicting.
Oh yeah. Well, it isn't like we were chatting before the show. There's some surf coming into the UK middle of this week, and we're like gone. We're going.
We've already checked out, booked the day off, everything.
Yeah, because we work full time, so we're like working in the building trade. So we put work on hold to grab that hit of adrenaline and tranquility. Do your kids surf as well? You take kids out with you?
They will get in the water right now when we occasionally on hot days. We live in San Francisco,
right?
So I'll get them to get their wetsuits on, but they really only want to do it if we're in warm water. They're still kind of squeamish about it. Ocean Beach in San Francisco is like a really rough place to learn to surf. It's so I'm trying, but right now they are. What they really want to do is play basketball. It's so funny. I think they look at me and like surfing is like just like the clothes dad wears. It's not necessarily like the thing that they're aspiring to. They still, they're somewhat urban kids. So they, but yeah, I've gotten them out there and I'm trying. I took the approach. I don't know what you guys have done with your kids, but I took the approach with our first son where when he was 2, I had him suited up. I was like throwing him into the cold waves. And I think I nearly traumatized him. And I did that. And then the next time I took my 4-year-old in Hawaii and like surfed that was too big and he got drilled and he got a little bit traumatized. So then it was like 2 strikes against dad and we had the third one and his name is Finn. And I haven't yet traumatized him. And he seems like he's the most stoked about surfing. So now I'm taking this like more organic approach where I'm like, you guys tell me when you want to go. And
that's
like, really make it about playing rather than like, this is what dad wants you to do. So we'll see. Let's check back in a decade.
Yeah, they'll probably realize when they're a bit older that it's cool to have a dad that can surf and then they can get taught as well. And obviously you live somewhere where there's surf on your doorstep. So We now realise how lucky people are to have that, because it's not on our doorstep.
Yeah,
so.
we've got to travel probably not. It's about an hour and a half travel to get any decent surf. There's a few spots around where you can go to when the weather's right, but having that on your door. And I know you mentioned then about being in Hawaii and taking your kids to Hawaii. How was that for you? I know you go into it in your first book, The Saltwater Buddha, but can you explain that feeling to people of paddling out in Hawaii into that big surf at 16 years old, and what it feels like?
Well, at 16, I mean, it was just humbling. That was what it felt like, because I had this huge chip on my shoulder. I played water polo. I was a pretty decent skateboarder and snowboarder. So I'm like, here I've got I went and bought a 6'6", super chippy board.
Starting off easy.
Yeah, just being a total kook. And I was learning to surf right near Paia in Maui, and at this beach break that was really heavy and hollow. and I mean, I just had my ass handed to me, and it was so, and day after day after day after day. I mean, I literally surfed every day on that board on the North Shore for like 3 weeks before I even stood up. And so it was like a terrible, it's like a 70-year-old woman could have done much better than me learning to surf. I mean, nothing against 7-year-old women. I'm sure there's a lot that could surf much better than me now. But but yeah, then going back and being able to go back to Maui with my kids last year and doing it right. We went to the Lahaina breakwall. There's these tiny waves that roll in perfectly. We got soft tops, and and they were popping up right away and getting rides. And I'm like, this is, thank goodness, like I'm getting and the joy of watching them catch their first wave was absolutely equal, if not more, to the joy of catching that first wave on the North Shore of Maui after 3 weeks of beatdowns.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate to that. We have photos of my kids standing up for the first time, and to be able to get that photo is kind of priceless, and like you said, that is equal, if not even more, to your first kind of like unbroken wave. It's a beautiful thing, because you know what they're feeling, I suppose.
Yeah, you know what they're feeling, and I think you get those bits as well with that, where you can remember your first wave you caught, you can remember the best wave you've caught to date, and I think you can remember the worst time you've ever wiped out as well. Are they things you've got in mind, that you can remember all of them?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a handful of waves that are at the top, and a handful of wipeouts too. Yeah, but I think going back to the watching the little guys, it's so fast. I think I've watched the video like 200 times of them, and you just get, it's like joy, and there's something really special about that connection between, like, obviously parent and child, but I think even on a philosophical level, we have this ability, like we have these mirroring neurons, where when you see someone else enjoying themselves, some of those mirroring neurons start firing. But it's so much deeper with your kids. It's like you're watching yourself, and really, really fun. But yeah, I mean, I always, when I think about my top wave ever, I think about Padang, because I was just so, it was the first place I got like real legitimate tube rides, and I was so terrified of it. And it just seemed so above what I was capable of, because it looked like those Surf magazine tubes, and I just didn't think, I couldn't picture myself really doing it. So there was like that cognitive dissonance of like, I'm going to paddle out there, and there's some part of me that believes that that's possible, that I could get a backside barrel that, but it was like, I didn't really believe it. And so when I finally did get a really legitimate cover up on an amazing day, and it's just that slow motion of the wave coming over me, and I think I'd gotten some tubes that were like borderline, I was like, was that a tube? Did I make it?
Yeah.
And, did anybody get a photo? Because I think I was in there. And then realize, and then when I finally got like a legitimate deep tube at Padang and realizing there was no question about it. I was in, just in this room of water. And it was so that the way the whole world changes color when you're in a tropical tube, especially, that's frozen in my mind forever in slow motion. And I'm so grateful for that. And
I was about to say, it's something you're going to remember forever.
Yeah.
That kind of moment. For people who haven't read your book yet, I don't want to spoil it or anything, but I've recently read the Saltwater Buddha. It's just incredible. When you come to surf those big waves, the guy called Rom that you met, was he the guy that kind of give you the confidence to do that? Because I absolutely loved that guy in your book. He was almost like the Bodhi character in Point Break. That's how I pictured him when I was reading your book.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was like a more like jolly Bodhi. And,
not Robin Banks.
Yeah. He would it was he would come to breakfast, I remember, in this huge Vegemite robe, and eat, he was just a character. But yeah, he would he I love how much he was just a do-it-yourselfer. He got these old rickety beach cruisers like that were laying around and rusting in this, eco commune we were living in on the jungle side of the big island, and he brought those back to life. And he took these old boards that we thought would never ride again, and he patched them up. And then and he was, just like I say in the book, he's waking me up at 4:30 in the morning to ride down for dawn patrol. And I mean, those are things I just never would have done on my own. I was always, I think needed somebody to push me. And even though I was really motivated to learn to surf, I think I would have done it in a much more gradual way. And he was like, and so he wouldn't like coach you so much as just say, come on, we're going out here. And I was like, I can't handle that, and he's like, oh, sure you can. Just come on, just follow me. And then you're put in the situation. And I mean that, so, there probably are ways you could teach better, but that was perfect for me at that point. And Rom, and then he would do it. And there's something about, then all your sort of macho energy turns on of like, he's doing it. I can't wuss out here. And, that was just what I needed at like 19 years old.
Are you still in contact with him, or do you know how to get in contact with him?
Very occasionally. Yeah. Well, he's in Margaret River now and has a family and, is in the wine business. So he's doing great. Right. Yeah,
sounds like a good progression from him from, Vegemite wearing surfer to wine
connoisseur. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, maybe he's finding the best Vegemite wine pairings. If you're listening, Rom, we want to know.
Do you like Leighton was just saying then, the Saltwater Buddha? I've never been a great reader. I've normally been more like visual and stuff like that. And I found the book, The Saltwater Buddha, the first one I read of yours, was a book that I'd never had that before, where I read it really quickly and I couldn't put the thing down. And the whole story was amazing. And then I know your second book, because your second book was The Fear Project, which you surfed Mavericks, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then the third,
survived.
Yeah, and survived. That's one of the things there. And the third one, the All Our Waves of Water, is a continuation of the Saltwater Buddha, I feel, and it's your style of writing is so it tells a story, and I really connected to it. How do you find writing? I know you write for other publications as well, and you've written for some massive publications. And how do you find the difference in writing between writing something for yourself and writing something for one of those big companies?
Yeah. Well, I think the reason I gravitated more toward doing the books, because I started off as a magazine journalist and was doing all stuff that was like assignments and traditional style journalism where, he said, she said, some investigative pieces. I really liked it. But there's a part of me that just wanted to be more free with writing, more musical, more, and also just sort of write my heart. And I was conscious of that craving, and I thought it would come out in the form of one day writing a novel. So I thought my vision of how my writing career would go was like I was going to do great as a magazine journalist and work really hard, and then once I'd established myself, I would go off and live in a hut and write the great American novel. And what happened was I wrote this one piece. What happened was I started feeling like the magazine pieces were like I was hiding a little bit, because you can really do that as a journalist in the objective journalism structure where it's like you're writing what they said, and then you sort of come out with a view, but it's your heart is really hidden, and that's okay. That's sort of journalism, But I think I'm a sort of like a romantic and an artist at heart, and I think that part of me wanted to come out, and so and I wanted to write about surfing too, which is my heart. So I wrote this one piece about how surfing is a meditative experience for me, and I wrote it for this tiny publication. I just thought, well, I almost hope nobody sees this because it could be like, then they're just going to be like, Jaimal's a total bohemian. And my reputation as a journalist will be sort of, I was nervous about it, because I'd worked really hard to like go to Columbia Journalism School and try to build this reputation. But then, of course, like that piece went viral, and more than any other thing I'd ever written. And then I had a publisher that was saying, small publisher saying, "Do you want to write this as a book?" And at first I said no. I don't. That was it. Just seemed too vulnerable. And then I hemmed and hawed about it and did it, and even when it was done, Saltwater Buddha, I was really nervous about it, about releasing it, and so that was
because it's a very honest look at yourself, isn't it? Is that what you were nervous about?
It was the honest look at myself, and at the time too, like now mindfulness is like this $1 billion business, but at the time it was a little more fringe. I mean, this was only a decade ago, but it's gone really fast. And I think I felt like, am I going to wreck my journalism career by coming out with this? And I didn't, but it was a real battle with like, I think revealing to the world my internal life. And it was a beautiful process though, because I was so nervous about it. And then I came out with the book, and it wasn't like this runaway bestseller, but I started getting regular letters of people saying, this really speaks to me. Basically saying what you just said, like, I'm not, I haven't found a book that I really connect to. And let me tell you how my life mirrors your life. And I was like, it really made me go from feeling like I was this real strange duck, who had this like secret internal life, to being like, oh, everybody's kind of similar. Everybody's going through a lot of the same stuff and questioning in the way I am. So at any rate, that's a long-winded way of saying, it's been a great balance for me, because like journalism has been a way that I really get to get an education and learn about the world outside of the world that I would naturally operate in. You get a passport to ask all these questions about topics you don't know about. And then when I go and write my books, I get to write about my internal world. And that's been a healthy balance for me.
I think that what you were saying then, that connection I think people feel with it is that connection of, as we said earlier, like meditation, you feel that sort of connection in the sea, and I don't think you've got anything, it mirrors life in a way such as you go from the peaceful tranquility of sitting there, like, you know, bobbing up and down, waiting for the next wave, and all of a sudden into like pure insane adrenaline, which, you know, that goes in your day-to-day life as well. Everything's calm and fine, and all of a sudden, you know, everything goes nuts.
Life happens.
Life happens. Yeah, there's nothing else like that in that anyone can even compare it to that I know.
The people that were getting in contact with you after reading the book, were they all surfers, or were people kind of drawing comparisons in just their own life in general, or was it just loads of surfers getting in contact with you saying, "Oh my God, you've put down my thoughts on page and what it feels like to surf"? And
no, I think it was a mix, but I think the majority of the letters I would get were often like, either I'm not this, but I really connect with this through my own prism. You know, I'm not a surfer, but like, you know, I play tennis, or I swim, or whatever. And or I'm not a Buddhist at all, but I totally get what you're saying with this water metaphor. And it's interesting, like, I think water, because we are water beings, you know, it's like that Tom Robbins quote, you know, humans are water's invention of transporting itself across land.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it's not verbatim, but something like that. And the way we speak, like, I'm in the flow, I'm getting bogged down, I'm, you know, I'm drowning in work. We think in water terms. And so, you know, just because you don't like sit and cross your legs and meditate, or you don't paddle out and identify as a surfer, doesn't mean you aren't already thinking in even unconsciously in these terms. And I think, so that was a real revelation for me when I started getting those letters, was like, oh, this taps into sort of a collective unconscious about the way that even language has been created. And that was fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's definitely, that's a good explanation of in there as well, of the way.
Well, the way that everybody feels, not just surfers, is it?
Not just surfers. Really, I think that's a general
metaphor for life, kind of thing.
Metaphor for life. You've also got a on that subject. You've also got a new book coming out, Mop Rules the Waves. Can you tell us a bit about that and where it came from, where the idea came from about that book?
Yeah, Mop Rides the Waves of Life is, I think, it actually happened really organically. One of the things I love to do is doodle, and sometimes I'll draw waves, you know, like every other surfer, just like, you know, it's kind of peaceful. Not a very good artist, and drawing a wave is a good, you know, sort of abstract way just to let my mind wander. And but I started drawing this little stick figure with really wavy hair, and I just liked the way he looked, and lo and behold, you know, I ended up with this little, like, 40 pages of Mop, and I started calling him, and it was kind of just like a mini Saltwater Buddha. And I wasn't planning on doing a kid's book until I got about 10 pages into it, and I was like, oh, this could be really cool. And yeah, it made me, I mean, Mop is a kid who loves to surf, and he's got this big mop top of hair, which is why he's named Mop. But he keeps running into, like, you know, emotional turmoil at school. Like, he gets pushed, or he gets teased for his hair, and he can't control his emotions. And then, one day his mom teaches him mindfulness, and she's like, this is really about surfing life. And he's like, oh, that's so hokey, Mom. And but then he gets it as he paddles out that his emotional waves are moving a lot like waves, and he doesn't have, like, he has that moment of choice where if he's caught in an angry wave, it's totally okay. He doesn't have to fight against it. Doesn't have to react against it. Like when you're getting held down by a wave, you can either fight it or you can just relax and let it pass. And so that's sort of like the idea that I'm playing with there in Mop. And it was really, really, really fun to then team up with this guy, Matt Allen, who's a Southern California surf artist. He did all the watercolors, and it just came out really beautiful. And I think out of all my books, it's been the most fun to write. I don't know if it's also because it's so short, but I think I realized I was using a lot of complex language to describe something that's pretty simple. And it's been really cool to see my kids get into that, because even like I was saying, they're not like super motivated to surf. It's not their top priority, but seeing these images come to life for them, they really connect with it. So I'm grateful
at this time as well, because obviously with the lockdown that we're all going through, and kids are obviously struggling. So the book saying about the turmoils of life for the kids, and as I was saying to you before, the chat we had before we came on recording, there's a charity in the UK called the Wave Project, and they take kids out surfing that have anxiety issues. And so your book, because I think you said it's coming out in about 10 days in the UK, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so that coming out at this time is just perfect. Like, it could genuinely help some kids as well as be a fun read for kids as well. It's kind of perfect timing, really.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's helped our family in unexpected ways, because for example, there's this picture of Mop. He's duck diving this triple up, and in the wave it says fear and anger and sadness, and he's just moving under it peacefully. And with my kids, they colored in those pictures from the coloring book, and I started hanging them up around. And it was interesting, like when any of us were getting like overheated in the house, which is often, with 3 little kids, I started saying, hey, you're in a wave, and it's going to pass. And our 8-year-old's very like cognitive. And I remember one time he was just so angry. And I said, it's going to pass. And he said, no, it's not going to pass. I'm going to feel this way forever. And when he said it's like he heard himself, and he looked at the drawing, which we had posted up on the wall, and he laughed, and it's like he realized that he was wrong. And it was this beautiful moment where he then said, well, I'm still really mad, and I said, well, just like, it's just like that. You're in a wave, but if you don't have to like act from that wave, and it worked. It was really neat to see it work in a way that I didn't even expect it to work that well. And yeah.
Do you find that with like social media now as well? There's so much, even though everyone's so connected, they're so distant. There's so much anxiety going around now. Does that affect you yourself? I know you have to use social media and everything for a platform. Everyone does now, but I imagine for what I imagine your life feels like, or what you want to stand for in your life, if you feel that as a big pressure.
Yeah, I social media, I definitely have like a love-hate relationship with it. I mean, it's neat in the way that you have this publishing platform, and you can kind of say whatever you want, but there is always this. I don't like how it measures. There's this. Humans already are in this popularity contest all the time, and I think that isn't our strongest evolutionary
Yeah.
point, that for a peaceful society. And then it's like, here we are living through this platform that literally just measures it in numbers instantly, and I don't think that plays to our strengths, sort of our highest potential. So I don't like that, but I do participate in it, as it has felt like a necessary part of being a writer. And I think that there's, what I see in like the political sphere, especially, is like knee-jerk reactions on top of knee-jerk reactions, and then also realizing that the more inflammatory you can be, the more likes or retweets or whatever you get. And so it's almost like if you look at society as the ocean, and you're like, okay, here we have an issue like we're trying to resolve. What if like all the waves just break on top of each other at once? And it's just like nuts. It's like nobody can. That's what social media often feels like to me. It's just like the center of the storm, and like nobody can make sense of anything.
Yeah, there's a lot of trying to outdo each other on it. It's almost like you've mentioned before, like the amount of likes that you feel like you need to get, or what some people feel like they need to get.
It's
pressure.
It is, yeah. But I think it's also like anything, it can be a practice. If you decide to engage with it, it's like you can use it as a mindfulness practice of like, let me see how my sort of happiness can rise and fall with these like likes and dislikes, and just observe that and see, well, that's really is like the human condition of suffering right there. So if I can observe myself in that, and then try to let it go and just sort of walk away and do something else, or breathe through it or whatever, it just becomes another practice that we have to deal with in this new world. You know, you go public speaking or anything, you get all kinds of anxiety about what the world thinks of you, and that's a practice. Like you can so I try to approach it that way, where I try to notice the anxiety, how it arises, and then, you know, let go of that desire. Of course, I want to be liked and loved and get all, you know, like everyone else, and but I also have to recognize that, like, if I become too obsessed with that, it's just I'm living in hell. That's awful. It's an awful place to be all the time. So you have to let go of it and walk away. And so that is just, you know, it's part of our modern world.
I think that mindfulness in your, you know, in your new book, I think it sounds like something that could help a lot of people that focus too much time on that social media thing as well. When there's stuff, you know, you see people living through social media on a side where they're not even experiencing life, you know. I heard someone talk on a podcast the other day about saying, imagine 20 years ago having to show someone a photo of your food, you know, like you'd have to go and get your film developed. You'd have to then take it to the shop, like, and then send it to them and go, this is my food. They'd be like, what the hell are you sending me that for?
Yeah, it looks horrible.
It's like complete madness. And then you go back to something in the ocean like that. It's like us sat in the ocean, just in more or less a meditative state, where it's the complete opposite, and it's the furthest thing from your mind. You know, you paddle out in the water and everything disappears. It's that.
Yeah, well, as surfers, we're kind of lucky to kind of have that, I suppose. But so as life in general is stressful, and you've got, you know, the kids and the social media and stuff, but you feel like you have to be on it because you need to be visible, really, because of your work that you do. So you're going to use surfing as a bit of a retreat, I suppose. So what does like a pre-surf and a post-surf Jaimal look like? You know, there's like, you know, so what we've noticed, for instance, when we're driving to surf, it's very like the music we listen to is very fast, kind of like nearly heavy metal. Oh, let's get it done, I need to get out there. And when you come back, it's like acoustic music, almost like Enya we're listening to on the way back.
I wouldn't go Enya, but it's going that way.
So do you feel like there's almost like two sides of you? There's like a pre-surf Jaimal and there's a post-surf Jaimal.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's been interesting actually during this COVID. We have been quarantined up in the mountains, so I haven't been able to surf, and I've been. So I do feel a little more fragmented than usual because I don't have that pre or post surf. I've been going for runs, and we go hiking and we go swim at the lakes and stuff up here, but I can't wait. We're going back next week to the coast, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I have found as I've gotten older that I've developed a little bit, I think, of a more, I've released a little bit of my identity around surfing, where like when I remember in my 20s, especially, like if there were good waves out there and I knew my friends were getting them and I knew I was missing them, like that was a huge amount of suffering for me. So it was almost like that pre-surf was like I'd created a huge amount of stress around it, and it was like also how I surfed in the waves. I had to surf well, or I had to like feel like I was progressing. And, now at 40, I'm like, I don't really care if I look as cool or, or do as well. And I think that's really freeing in that, like the letting go a little bit of like, and realizing I can contact that post-surf Jaimal in other ways. Like I can go for the trail run and then swim in the river and feel really great too. So just kind of opening up my world a little bit to, but there's still, I say that, and there's nothing like surfing. So when I go, when I get back to the coast next week, I know I'm going to be like, how did I just go 3 months? This is the longest I've gone without surfing in like a decade. Like, how did I do that? Cause there's nothing like this. And, but it is a good experience to, I think, every now and again, sort of take a break, from the surfing obsession and do something else. Cause you realize like, oh, there's, we become so linked to like, this is what I do, and with anything, no matter what you do, whether it's like you're a writer or, we remove yourself away from that. It's an interesting experiment. Anyway, I don't know if I answered that question.
No,
at all,
yeah,
but.
you did answer that question. I was going to a part in that question you were saying about like trail running and that. Do you try and have a fitness routine that you keep to when you're not in the water? I mean, we were saying the other day that even you go a few weeks or a month or 2 months without keeping that paddle fitness up. You get back in the water and you're like, oh my god, this is impossible. Do you have a fitness routine you keep to in between surfing times?
I have to. Exercise is so important to me. I just feel awful if I don't do it. It's one of those. It's just one of those self regulation things. It's not so much like I'm exercising to keep fit in the surf, because I know when I get back, I'm going to be flailing around out there. Like I can't paddle out at Ocean Beach. We have one of the hardest paddles in the world at our beach break. And now I'm just going to be so, feel like I'm just starting out again. But I try to just exercise every day, whether it's going for a run or going for a skate. I've gotten back into skateboarding recently, which is fun with my kids.
I saw you doing a shove it on your Instagram the other day, actually.
I don't. It's amazing that any of those things are still possible, but it's been fun. I just tried. I think it's so important as grown-ups we forget to play, and that's really what like we turn like fitness into a chore, where it's just another thing to check off the list, because our lives are so compartmentalized. But I think it's one of the cool things about being a dad is you have to go out and play with your guys. And so I try to, I love to run because it's kind of a meditative state, but I also try to just, not forget how to play. And that's the cool thing about surfing, I think, is that it's automatic play. Like you don't have to put it on as a grown up. You're like, you just get out there and it's play, you're having fun. So it happens seamlessly. But when you don't have the ocean, I think it's important to find other ways to do that.
Yeah, I use fitness as a bit of a surfing patch as well, like a surfing plaster, just to get me over the times when we're not surfing. The only problem with that is it ends up getting a bit out of hand, and you're working out all the time when you're not. You're either working out, or surfing. It's those three things. But the skateboarding, because we're 40 now as well, and with our kids, I kind of feel like I don't feel so stupid going out on the board now because I've got my kids there.
I still go out on my board anyway. I don't think 40 is too old to be skateboarding at all. But
it feels like an excuse for me now. Like, I've got the boys here. I'll just show you how to do this, shall I? And
yeah, show you how to fall off. This is how you fall off like an old man. Hold on. Yeah.
It hurts. It hurts more at 40, that's for sure. But
it makes you. I think you've got a lot more fear at 40 as well, because you know what can happen and what.
That's experience.
Yeah, well, how much it hurts when you hit the ground, and I think you also it sort of links into the fear of like things like that. You wrote the book, the Fear Project, about surfing Mavericks. How do you find that in something like going out on your skateboard now? Say going out on your skateboard at 40 with the kids, you think, oh, I'll try this or something that hurts. How would you say fear is the same in? Do you think fear is the same in those ways? Between something like trying something new like skateboarding, or even surfing something small for someone who's not surfed before, to go into surfing something like Mavericks.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing that I learned researching that was a really fun project because I got to talk with all these athletes and neuroscientists, psychologists about fear, what it is, and I had a philosophy around how to deal with it, but I didn't really know how the hardware worked. And the interesting thing is that the way our biology developed, it's like we were. When we were early mammals, you basically just have your instinctual brain, like your limbic system, they call it. So, it's like sex drive, fear, hunger, like all those things that keep you alive. And then as our brains ballooned, like we built this neocortex and prefrontal cortex and all that. But the original hardware where fear comes from basically remained the same because it wasn't broken. And that's the thing, that it's super fast. It just shoots adrenaline into your body and gets you ready to fight, freeze, or flee. And so it's faster. By the time that adrenaline has gotten into your body, you haven't even realized you're afraid yet consciously, because the prefrontal cortex is like our logical thinking, and that functions a little more slowly. It has to. So by the time, that's why, you throw your popcorn into the air in a movie before you say, it's just a movie. Like, it happens really instantaneously. So anyway, that's just an introduction to say, like, fear of any sort has this similarity in that it's hitting your amygdala, your early brain, and getting you into fight or flight mode. We like a little bit of that experience because it's actually just sending extra energy to our limbs, and that's why like adrenaline feels fun and good, and it actually can get you into a heightened state of performance because you're getting a little extra strength and energy. But if it goes too far, you freak out and you freeze up. And so there's this spectrum with fear. And once I realized that, it was like fear, I think, became a little bit more something playful. I think I had this view before, like, I just don't want to feel afraid, because it just makes me uncomfortable. But I realized the thing about fear is that it's your reaction to fear that makes it spiral downward. If you kind of can embrace it and breathe into it, then it's like you're like, oh, how can I direct this energy in the right way? So with skateboarding, you still have to, at 40, listen. There's fear does have some reason to it. Maybe you shouldn't try that 10 stair kickflip at 40 when you haven't.
Shouldn't try 10 stair kickflip at 40.
Right. Or anything. But, where can you test that edge? That to me is the interesting place, is like, can you take it to that edge, breathe into it, and use the energy to find flow. And that's where we want to be, I think, with surfing, slightly bigger waves, or skating, or public speaking, or anywhere you're trying to expand your comfort zone. I think it's about kind of playing with that edge and making it playful and fun. And that's how, and then it keeps expanding. And ideally, where you can then recognize you're afraid in when something more serious happens, maybe in like your home life or whatever, and you feel anxiety or something at work, and then you can take what you learned skating or surfing and be like, oh, I'm not gonna let this spiral out of control.
Yeah, that's a definite good answer. What's that can you describe that feeling though? Like, what is that feeling like? Just to be, I couldn't even imagine, even to be out in somewhere like Mavericks. What's that feel like?
I mean, yeah, Mavericks is terrifying, and for a good reason. I mean, Mavericks is one of those places where it's like, my fear system is telling me this is a bad idea, and it's 100% right. Like, this is not a wise move, survival wise, because even if you've trained to be the best, like, you're Mark Fu, or, you can just, the circumstances can be such that you have no choice. You can get knocked out, and be underwater, whatever. And that's true anyway, but Mavericks, it's just, it's so nuclear when you get out there and you hear the sound of these 10-foot thick lips, just top to bottom. It's like a slab, but it's 40 feet tall. And
it's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely terrifying. I've heard people say that what you don't realize of something like that is if you wipe out there, or even if you go and you're in the water and all of a sudden you've got that much water above you, is you don't take into account what the water pressure does all of a sudden onto you there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate that I only went down like maybe 3 or 4 times, and I got pretty lucky in that I didn't take like the full force of a lip and get shoved down for a 2-wave hold down or anything like that. But it was interesting because I'd trained myself at Ocean Beach, and I'd done all this visualization around, when I go down, here's how I'll relax and not panic. And when I finally did go down on my first Mavericks wave, like, there was none of that was present. I was just fighting for my life, and
everything goes out the window.
Yeah. And I'm just going to get to the surface. I don't care. And all that high philosophy was out the door. I think if I'd done it, if I'd surfed there 100 days in a year or something, that you have to work your way up to that. And I never got to that point. But I mean, the cool thing, the fun experiment to me about Mavericks, and why I wanted to, because I'm not really a big wave surfer or someone who wanted to make my life about that, but I was really interested in, it's not skill-wise, it's not different than dropping in on steep shore break or something. Like, it's just, you got to pop to your feet and go down. And so the main challenge is not flipping out psychologically. Like, if you can get to your feet and point, you can ride a Mavericks wave. And you just, you have to get used to those big boards and stuff. But once you've done that, it's basically like the motion is the same. And so this is a fun, like, psychological game of, can I really believe in myself? And it's obviously one with consequences. And so, and that, when I finally did basically get to the point where I was so angry at myself for not being able to believe in myself and go down one of those waves, because I knew I could do it. And I'd spent about 4 hours hemming and hawing, getting to the edge and not being able to push over the ledge, not being able to paddle hard enough. I just got so frustrated with myself that got to the point where I was willing, I'm just going to go down on one of these waves. I will get thrown over the lip. Like, I had to get to that point where I was willing to do that. And then when I did stand up, it was just like, it's amazing feeling to feel all that power. But the basic motion of riding the wave was, the same as any wave. And so breaking through that psychological barrier was just an ecstatic feeling, and one that made it worth it.
That's
Did you have on you? Because I know now some of the big wave surfers they wear a lot of tech to stop them drowning. Basically, do you have like a flotation vest on, or some of them are wearing float suits now, which is like a thin layer underneath your wetsuit, just makes you more buoyant, doesn't it? Did you wear anything like that, or you just kind of barebacked it, to one of a better words?
Yeah, I was barebacking it, and that I was doing it. This was, what was it? I only went out there for a couple of, really 1 year was the year and I only went out maybe 7 or 8 times. And nobody was wearing those. It was like a couple of years before it became the norm. And yeah, if I went back now, I stopped, then I had kids and I was like, I just don't need to be going back out to Mavericks. I don't have 6 hours to spend on my session.
Yeah,
and fair. B, like, it's gonna, this is gonna be this huge anxiety for my, wife who's just had a baby, who's, it's just like, all of it felt like, I don't need to do that, But if I would definitely wear one of those. It makes really good sense to have it. Yeah.
Yeah, especially now you're a family man. It's just not all gun-ho anymore, is it? You've got other people that you're kind of responsible for.
Yeah, you just realize you don't have that right to go get, paralyzed or, but I do think, there is the side of it too, though, where, yes, it is dangerous, but if you train, a lot of the guys I talk to, if you really run the numbers on big wave surfing, it actually is like, if pretty safe. Like cheerleading is much more dangerous. There's much more spinal injury. So like the things that we look at as, it is interesting to sort of run the exercise of like, you take the same risk when you get in the car every day. And so if you're really training and preparing for big wave surfing, there is a way that you can do it safely. And I think if I were doing it like to make money for my family, I would absolutely feel like, oh, this is a good thing to do. But, I've chosen a different route. Books and writing are my career. So
finally, can you tell people what's going on in your life? What's new? What you've got coming up?
Well, I'm really excited, besides the children's book, to this documentary I've been working on for about a decade ago. I got sent to Bangladesh to write about the first Bengali surfers. And there was one young woman who was about 16 at the time who was beating most of the local boys in a contest, and she was getting harassed by a lot of people around her because girls after puberty don't really swim or surf in public. It's a conservative country. And so she was breaking all these norms, and I wrote a piece about it, and this director wanted to make a documentary film. So we took a couple trips. She made me like a producer, and then that turned into like going back and forth for a few years. And that film is finally coming out. So I'm really excited. It's called The Most Fearless, and it's follows the life of this one young woman, Nasima Atker, who really became like the first Bengali surf star. And even like there's a Bengali feature film just made about her. She's really changed, I think, the course of women's lives in Bangladesh because of what she did. So it's pretty cool that, to have met her a decade ago and now see that coming full circle. I hope it'll be viewed. Yeah, it's got themostfearless.com.
Yeah. Oh, is it? So is it? That's just where you see it. Is it being released on anything else or?
Hasn't yet. We're just doing, we would be doing film festivals right now, and it's all the COVID thing has been. So actually, as we speak, it's at the Cannes. We have a sales agent, Totem, that is taking it around the Cannes. What do you call it?
Cannes Film Festival.
It's not the festival because they're not doing it this year, but they have like a market, like they have like a sales market. So hopefully it'll get a distributor and be out there soon. Yeah.
And tell people out there where they can find you online when if they want to make contact with you.
Yeah, I mean, probably just the social media is the easiest. I have a website, JaimalYogis.net, but if you find me on Instagram or something, I'm pretty responsive there.
That's great. Well, thanks for coming on, Jaimal. We've really enjoyed listening to you. The new book is coming out. I can't wait to get out. Definitely going to get for my boys. They definitely need some kind of help with like some cool surfing people, because I don't look cool surfing, so they want to look at their dad. So if they got someone to kind of look at in a book and give them some life lessons, that's fantastic. So when it comes out, so next 10 days in the UK, I'll definitely grab a book.
Thank you. This has been really fun. I appreciate what you guys are doing. Hopefully we'll surf together. If you're ever in San Francisco,
likewise. If you're ever over here in the UK, give us a shout. You make sure you bring your big, thick wetsuit and your hood and your boots and your gloves, and because it's freezing. So
I've got them all. Yeah,
nice one. And thanks, Jaimal, for that chat. His book is out on the 30th of June on Amazon, and the book is Mop Rules the Waves of Life. Really cool kids' books. It's going to help kids at the moment, we think. And if you're a server, it's nice to give something like this to kids.
Yeah, definitely. It was really good to have that conversation today. I felt like we could have chatted to him for hours and hours, to be honest. Get in contact. Let us know what you thought of that. That was our first official interview or chat, as we're going to try and go for more of a chat style.
Yeah, he's really set the tone, I think, with this cool, relaxed, chilled surfer vibe is what we're going to try and...
Yeah, definitely. Yes. I know I say that a lot, but definitely. I'm really glad we got him on. I know he's not from the UK, but I just think it was worth getting him on just to hear his thoughts, the way he connects the sort of the mindfulness and the meditation with the surfing, and how that fits into day-to-day life, how you can use that.
He's a really good author, and he's a journalist for lots of publications, so he can verbalise it a lot better than what we can.
Oh yeah, he verbalises brilliantly. Yeah. We just ramble on.
Right, yeah, we do ramble.
We ramble on a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of takes on the podcast.
Yeah, there's a lot of takes. Is it the thing is with the podcast we do, the way we talk normally, as we're free flowing now, that's fine. If we get to a point where we've got something we've got to say or we're trying to say, we can't do it.
Totally mess
we
it up,
just mess it. For example, I think it took us 3 hours to record our 1 minute trailer.
Yeah.
And whereas the next episode, 26 minutes, we just banged straight through it because we were just rambling on, talking to each other. And from the feedback we've been getting, I think that's what people like. The fact that we're just, we've been friends for...
Too long.
26 years, 27 years.
You're real old, so...
You're the same age. You're older, actually. So, yeah, it's, I think that's what people like, that sort of friendship we've got and the things we can talk about. So we've got some amazing other interviews coming up, still to come. We've got someone else we're speaking to very soon. Let us know what you think. Get in contact. We are on social media. Find us on Instagram, find us on Twitter, find us on Facebook. Just search for the UK Surf Show. So that's it for this week.
Yep, see you next time.
Bye.